right, everybody, welcome officially to the panel with Plaid Hat Games and Ashes Week. Give these guys a round of applause for making it. And promptly clip all of our audio devices. They are sad about that clap. Let's do this. Let's start off. Let's just go around and have you guys say who you are and what you do at Plaid Hat so we can kind of get to know the different personalities of it.
I'm Bob Klotz, and I'm the lead playtester for Ashes.
I'm David Richards. I'm the graphic designer for Ashes.
I'm Fernanda Suarez, and I'm the main illustrator. The only illustrator.
And I'm Isaac Vega, the lead game designer at Plaid Hat Games and also the art director.
All right, so tell us, Isaac, this is probably a good question for you. We were talking about this a little bit. I just want to know the history of Plaid Hat Games.
All right.
Because you guys have been doing a lot of stuff. You've been around. I first heard about you with Summoner Wars, and it's been a longer since then. And I'm sure there was a lot of previous stuff before that. So give us a little history and tell us about Plaid Hat Games.
Yeah, no problem. So, Plaid Hat Games started with Colby. Colby designed a game that he really believed in and really wanted to put out onto the market, which is called Summoner Wars. So I'm sure many of you are aware of it. And he got a lot of support from a lot of friends. He was really big into the HeroScape scene. And a lot of people that were playing in that scene were also exposed to Summoner Wars, and they really loved it and really wanted to support him. So he decided to start a company, and since then, he has been able to bring on other designers. His next person that he brought on was Bistro for Dungeon Run, and then Mice and Mystics came out with Jerry Hawthorne, and then comes along me. So I met Colby randomly through my over-intrusive mother, who brought home one of his business cards home one day, and she is just my biggest cheerleader, so she just believed in me 100%, me out making a board game, which is really nice of her. She still claims that she's my manager and deserves a cut, which, believe me, she takes way more than 10%. But yeah, I ended up meeting Colby. I saw that Summoner Wars was doing very well and people were enjoying the game, and when I met him, I showed him another game, which at the time he was very nice about, and very, very encouraging to continue on. Later on, I find out it's a piece of crap. But as I got to know him, I was like, okay, this guy's pretty cool. I don't know anything about the industry. I just started playing board games for like 3 months, so like before I started, I want to design. And eventually I pitched some City of Remnants, which was my first release with Plaid Hat Games. And since then, I've been by Colby's side, and we have kept moving forward. I was his first hire at Plaid Hat Games. He was able to go full-time after a couple years and then bring me on, and eventually bring on Dave, which was an awesome addition. And then we brought on Brian, who's also done an amazing job for us too. And we also have my brother Sam at the company. We have Joe as well, who does web development, and Fernanda is our illustrator. All right. Don't you get any ideas?
Hands off.
Warren. So we've just developed this really interesting and fun team. We're all incredibly passionate about the products that we bring out. We all have a different flavor and a different kind of want out of the industry, and we all just complement each other so well. And because of that, I think we've done something that people really, really appreciate. And I see a lot of you with plaid hats here today. I know you got them as part of the event, so obviously you're required to wear them. But I think a lot of you, I've seen some of you with not only Ashes here today, but other of our games, and it's really a humbling and wonderful experience to have so many fans, and that's what's really built up our company, our relationship with our fans, and we hope to continue moving forward and doing right by you guys.
All right, so that leads us obviously to the next question, which is Ashes. So you went through the kind of the Summer Wars, Dead of Winter, had some big releases. I understand Dead of Winter was really big for you guys.
Yes.
How did Ashes originate? Like, what's the story of this game? Where did it come from, and how did it kind of get into the space that it is now?
Well, when I was thinking about doing a game like Ashes, I was thinking about me in middle school playing a Dragon Ball Z, the card game.
I've been there.
And I was playing around with all those cards with my friends, and I had such a good time, but didn't have much money ever. So I played with the crappy cards that my friends gave me, and they were not that nice. So I did what I could, and I remember enjoying it so much. So when I sat down, and it's like, okay, I can design a game now that kind of tries to give me that nostalgia. So I approached it originally as a game where these wizards were like, okay, very traditional, and there were actually kids that would find these wands, and it was called Wands of the Fallen, and it was the wrong title. The wrong title, definitely. But it kind of, that developed the spell board, and that developed the battlefield and the character and stuff like that. And from there, we started making different iterations. We started developing how each Phoenixborn became more unique by adding the different abilities, adding the unique cards, trying to stay with a 30 card deck, and dice. Dice was a big aspect that I really wanted to add into the game, because I felt, why isn't an LCG doing this? Why isn't a competitive card game utilizing this other piece of our industry that is in so many games? And I used to hate dice. I used to absolutely hate it. I was very much like, when I started off, very into Euros and things that were more guaranteed. And Colby turned me on to dice with City of Remnants, and since then I have not designed a game without dice. I freaking love them. So when I came around to do Ashes, I decided, you know what, that would be a really cool way to do a variable kind of mana, and without completely making the person have to build up all the time. I really wanted a game that made you feel like a badass right from the beginning. Like, I wanted you to be able to know what you were going to do. I wanted you wanted to be able to see your deck take place from turn one. And one of my biggest frustrations with other LCGs and CCGs was I just didn't draw the right cards. They didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. None of the deck that I built just worked out, and got screwed over. So I really approached Ashes with the idea of, like, how do I take the things that I love out of those other games and twist it and change it to kind of solve those problems and issues that I had with it, but still offer that nostalgia that I was looking for as a middle schooler.
Right.
So, and one of the biggest things that I wanted out of it was to make sure that it was affordable and you got everything. Jimmy has this card and Timmy has that card, and you can only get them randomly in these packs, and I hated that. I wanted everybody to be able to kind of play around with the deck building aspect, and it wasn't about what you could get or what you could afford. It was about what kind of skill you had and ideas that you had to bring to the game. And what I love the most about the community that's building up is that things are still changing all the time, even though everybody has access to the same cards. And it's just so humbling and wonderful to see where Ashes is right now, and where it's going, and what we can still do with it in the future. It's been a dream come true.
All right, so next question. A moment I'll never forget. Gen Con 2015, walking down the hall, and I look to my right, and I see one of the most beautiful boxes of gaming I've ever seen in my entire life, which is the Ashes Master set over there. And my question is, where did the thought behind the minimal design, the aesthetic of the art, plus the graphic design, where'd that come from? And how intentional was that? And how big of a part of design? Because it feels like that carries through the whole game. So can you tell us about that part of the process?
So originally, the number one thing I wanted is I don't want to look like another Magic the Gathering clone. Because most CCGs out there all break down into, hey, you're green, red, whatever. You break down into those things, and I wanted to do a very different aesthetic. So right from the beginning, when I saw Takedo's box, you all know how beautiful that is. I was like, we need to do something with white and a whole bunch of pops of color. So I went to my gal here, who had already done an amazing job on Dead of Winter, and hey, Fernanda, let's see what we can do. And I had originally tried to take her in another direction, which was the wrong choice. But then when I noticed that there was some a little bit of struggling there and trying to get what I was looking for, I was like, you know what, Fernanda, you know what the hell you're doing. You know, how about you try the characters that I'm trying to do and do it in your style, but with lots of color and lots of pops of color, and make those things really pop. And she came back with the first illustration, which was actually Brennan, who was released today. And that's what started creating the entire look and feel of the game. And of course, then there's Dave that came along as well and really helped solidify the entire feel of the graphic design. He designed the dice, and from there we started to do something that was really cool and unique, and I'm very, very proud of how that turned out. Fernanda, do you want to say anything about your art process there?
Yeah, tell us about that. Like, what was going through your head whenever you were first imagining the Ashes?
Like, oh God, Isaac again.
Yeah.
At first, when he first told me this story about the Phoenix store, I got super excited. I was like, wow, this is so new. I haven't not heard this before. This is amazing. I thought, wow, I feel so lucky to just be part of it, and it's inspired me so much. Just the story that he told me. Like, I was like, okay, I'm in love with this. I really want to do it. And the first test we did didn't work out. I was like trying, and it looked forced. So when he was like, you know what, do whatever you want, but with a lot of color and just that pulse, I was like, okay. And then it just, I don't know, this came out, and
Wow.
I feel in love with it, the entire world. I think Isaac is a genius. I love everything he creates, and yeah, I love collaborating with him. It's great.
What about you, Dave? Tell us about the graphic design.
The graphic design was basically developing a balance between the aesthetic, the beautiful aesthetic that Fernanda came up with, and then trying to make something minimal so her art stood out, while at the same time the mechanics of the game stood out. So that was sort of like the balance I wanted to create. Because early on, we were like super minimalistic. There was like no texture, there was no like really ashen thing. There was like really kind of like more harsh vector lines, which are still somewhat prevalent in the game, but not as much. So it was just kind of like a back and forth between Isaac and myself coming up with like the look that you basically see today.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so one more question just kind of about the past and present of Ashes is general feelings about the game at this point, right? So you launched it a while back, been received, you haven't put out any expansions except the ones that we have now, which are a little bit early. What's the reception of the game been like? And do you feel like it's been a success, and are you happy with where the game is?
I am absolutely ecstatic with the reception that it has had so far, the community that's been building up around it, the wonderful people that I've gotten to meet through the release of the game, the podcasts that have been started about the game, people just talking about the game and realizing what I was trying to go for. You know, when certain reviews came out and people were talking about just the way everything flowed and how the different mechanics lined up, and it just felt like such a relief to understand that, hey, people are getting it. You know, people are understanding what we were trying to do. They aren't not getting what we were trying to go for. And as a designer, that's all that you can ask. You know, is that your product is understood by an audience the way that you wanted to have it understood. And I love the possibility of this game. And every day that I get to work on it, I enjoy working on it. And that's hard to say for a game that, you know, is going to be going, I'm hoping, for a long time. But I just love creating the characters and messing around with the world and doing it more than I probably should. You know, so it's been a lot of fun. And what helps too is having these amazing people next to me encourage me and understand what I'm trying to go for, and not only break their backs to try to meet up to my expectations, but go so much further and far beyond than I had ever hoped. and it is incredibly inspiring to just be surrounded by so much love around a product, and I just can't wait to see what the future holds.
All right, so I have a really important question. It's for all of you. Who's your favorite Phoenixborn? Start here.
Geez, I gotta say, Cole. I'll go with Cole.
Yeah.
Speaking from a visual standpoint, I really like Brennan, just like that kind of dark, brooding, but there's just like, I don't know, just something inside him that's just kind of different than everybody else.
Oh, sounds familiar.
My favorite is a new one that is not out yet, but you guys are gonna love her. Her name is Victoria, and she has a bit of like Harley Quinn vibe. She's really crazy, with a Victorian style kind of, and she's my new favorite. I love her, so I hope you will love it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm actually showing off her this weekend, so if you guys want to play against me, earn that Beat Isaac badge, which is incredibly easy. So, yeah, I can go ahead and show you those decks, and we have the iPad too that shows them in a little bit higher resolution. But when you ask me what's my favorite Phoenixborn, you're trying to make me choose amongst my babies. All right?
That's the idea.
There's always a favorite. There's always a favorite.
So
Yeah, there's always a
hard.
favorite.
It's so hard. You know,
There's always
when
a
I was
favorite.
coming up with the concepts of the different characters, there was one that I visualized in my head in a certain way, and when I sent the concept design over to Fernanda, she came out exactly like I had seen in my brain. And that like never happens. Like there's always a little bit of variation, stuff like that. And Fernanda is incredibly good at coming up in art direction. Often I'm blown away with the stuff that she's coming up with. It's even better than I was imagining. But Saria, the actual image was just on point. And I just love playing that mill style deck, the control deck, and she's a crazy girl. I don't know, I kind of like that. So it's some fun stuff. So
Is that
Saria.
And now we know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, exactly. Saria. Okay, we got it. So here's the question. So you have your favorite Phoenixborn. Are we going to learn more about these Phoenixborn from a story perspective and the Ashes universe as a whole in any kind of route that isn't just, new releases and cards? Do you guys have like a master lore, like understanding that you pull these things from? Is there a lore book ever in the future where we might learn more about this fiction planned, anything that's going to expand on this universe, or do you see it just as this kind of expandable card game?
Well, I definitely see a lot more than speed things. I'll tell you that. As with anything that you work on creatively, when it comes to story and stuff like that, it takes time, and there's a lot of developments that goes into that. And since our primary focus at Plaid Hat Games is to create a great game with good content, that's my day job. That's what I do. But I cannot design a single character in this world without coming up with some sort of story behind them. I can't design the world that they're going into, the way they feel, without thinking about all of these different aspects. And if any of you ever trap me in a corner, I will go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about a whole bunch of stuff that is not written down anywhere, but it's in my brain. We've actually been doing, hopefully a series that's going to continue quite a bit, an Open Memories with the Main Action guys, that we talk a little bit about the world and where it is right now, where it was in the past, and how these Phoenixborns interact with that world and who they are. And we're going to be going a little bit further deep into that. And I would love to do all the things that you're talking about. Love to do. But there are certain time restraints, budget restraints, things like that, that all of those things will come, hopefully in time, as long as they're justified. So the more that you guys support the game, the more that you guys love on the game, the more that you guys teach the game to other people, that all becomes way easier to do. And I would love to sit all day long and just, doodle on my maps and create all these characters and talk about all that stuff all day long, because the reason that I started being creative in any sort of way was because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to create worlds, I wanted to create characters, and being a board game designer has allowed me to do that. And Ashes is my first big world. You know what I mean? The Dead of Winter does great, it's awesome, but let's all admit it's parody. You know, there's lots of cool characters and stuff like that, but you've seen zombies. You know? City of Remnants was also a cool world that I enjoyed doing, and I would love to dive more into that as well, but Ashes is my baby, and like I just love the feel of the world. I love the characters. I love the backstory. I want to design more games that take place in the past and take place in the future. There's other types of powerful beings that I've been talking about with people for a long time before the game even released, and you guys won't see that for a long time. but yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff planned. I want to do a lot of cool things, and lots of these people have gone through many hours to listen to me rant on about all this stuff. But we'll do what we can, as much as we can, as we move forward. And your support and your love and spread of the game is only going to help get that out there faster.
All right, so let's talk about mechanics for a little bit. One of my favorite questions to ask.
So exciting.
So exciting. Mechanics. One of my favorite questions to ask a designer and a playtester, so this really goes to Isaac and Bob, although if you guys have thoughts on it, I'm glad to hear that too, is what are your thoughts on balance in a game? Should all the cards be equal, or is there something more than just everything being equally useful and viable in a game like this?
I want Bob to answer this first.
Okay, so I guess one of the things that you have to ask when you're talking about balance between cards is what type of distribution model do you have? I mean, if you have a collectible card game, then obviously in order for the game to be profitable, you need there to be chase cards. Fortunately, we live in a world where LCGs exist, DCGs exist, and the drive to make profit off of chase cards isn't as prevalent, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think in a game like Ashes, you definitely want all the cards to be as balanced as possible, and then players can find synergies within those cards that make them stronger than their individual parts. In addition, it allows for a shifting meta, because if you have all cards that are, in general, close to the same power level, then what strategies are being played determines what cards are going to win. So I think if you can never get perfect balance, obviously, but you want to strive to get as close to perfect balance as you can so that the metagame can develop on its own.
Ricky, how's it get everything to add?
Well, Bob is a smart one in this, obviously. I'm the flighty designer, artsy-wise, and Bob keeps me in line with all the stats. It's like, this will never work, Isaac. You change this immediately. Which, if any of you are playtesters out there, you know what the hell I'm talking about right now. So, as the only thing I have to add is that it goes back to that middle schooler mentality of thinking, man, I don't want to put anything out there that isn't fun a lot for everybody. I want to make sure that the cards that are being played are being able to be utilized. I don't want to give you junk. And the best way to help us continue doing that is, one, if you're a playtester, that's awesome. That's the best, awesome. And two, if you don't want to playtest, but you want to log on to Ash's to the Plaid site, if you do that and track your plays on there, we're taking that information, seeing what you guys are building, seeing who's winning, seeing how those things are going forward, and trying to build cards to help utilize those older cards that may not be performing as well. So we want to continue making sure that every time we release something out there in the game, you get to go back into that original set, look at those old cards and see, ooh, what can I do now? You know, and it's like, and we want to continue that throughout the entire life of Ashes.
All right. Well, I have a particular question that I've been wanting to ask you guys for a very long time. A burning question, if you will. So, you know, when we first looked into Ashes and kind of got the hang of the flow of the game, right? You have the Phoenixborn putting conjurations and allies out, blocking damage, giving damage, looking for openings and tempo kind of plays that you can make. There were two mechanics that stuck out to me that seem to be outside the bounds of that kind of system. The first is direct damage to a Phoenixborn, which kind of bypasses the entire kind of condition of the game, which is openings. And the second is discarding your opponent's deck, which doesn't seem to play into the board state at all. So, why do those two mechanics exist in this game? What is it that prompted them to be entered into the card pool, basically? Who wants it? Isaac, Bob?
You want to go first?
Bob seems like he's ready. He's ready. He's been dreaming about this question.
Well, dark damage exists to allow a route to win the game, to end the game, when somebody manages to completely stall out an opponent. If you can't get damage through with your units, the game still has to end. I mean, milling does this to a point, but I think milling has an even more important role in the game, and that's that cards have costs, and some of those costs include higher die sides, and to get those often you'll have to meditate. Well, something that a mill deck do, mill for those that don't know, is a strategy where you try to remove all of a player's deck in ashes that causes damage when you can no longer draw cards. In other card games, you just straight up lose the game. But basically, if somebody has to meditate aggressively to play their cards, then if you're removing those cards faster, they can't continue the game past rounds 2 or 3 effectively. So I think mill is very important to keep a check on the stronger cards that are balanced from higher die sides.
Right. Fair enough. Wicked.
Because it's fun, baby.
Yeah.
Right? As many routes to victory as I can put in this game, it's going to happen.
All right, Bob. Well, tell us about what testing for Ashes looks like, and particularly if there's people out there watching, like all of these people, or people on the live stream, or people who are watching this video. If they want to get involved, how do they do it, and what can they expect?
Okay, I'm going to answer your second question first.
Okay.
The way you can get involved is to sign up as a volunteer on the Plaid Hat website. All you have to do, there's a bar at the top. You can click to become a Plaid Hat core member. And once you're a Plaid Hat core member, playtesting opportunities are emailed to you. Whatever email address you give, you're made aware of playtesting opportunities. And we're always looking for Ashes playtesters. So that would be the first thing you can do to help also to become a playtester. The second thing is, like Isaac mentioned earlier, report games. That helps us gather information on how things are doing in the real world. We can test it for years, and we won't find out as much information as the first couple weeks if the game is out in the wild.
Okay.
And for your first question,
Like, what does testing look like? What might we expect if you're a playtester?
okay, so do you want what happens before the playtesters see it? Because that's pretty interesting too.
Sure, yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so usually Isaac has some, high in the sky concept. He says, this is going to be so awesome. And then I have to say, well, Isaac, maybe we need to change a little bit of this.
Yeah.
And then I'll test it with, a group that I'm local with and say, actually, Isaac, we absolutely need to change. And so we'll go through a couple iterations that way, and eventually we'll get it to a point where we think the playtesters can see it. And then it's broken beyond belief the first week it's out with our playtesters.
Nice.
Generally, by the second week of testing, we can start seeing a little bit of what the deck will eventually look like. We've got the broad concepts down. And, from there, we'll generally start with base decks. We want the casual players to have a fun experience, so we don't want any massively unbalanced base deck games. It also allows us to compare a lot of the cards against the whole card pool. And from there, we'll open it up to constructed playtesting and generally spend several weeks there, a couple more weeks if necessary.
Yeah.
And a couple more weeks if it's really being problematic. But, of course, there's always that deadline. Sometimes there's a lot of long hours, trying to come up with solutions. Isaac is always great with being available when I really need to talk to him about, card changes.
Yeah. Okay.
Practice cutting and printing a lot. A lot.
Just thank God we have dice already, right?
All right, so this goes out to anyone that wants to answer it. As you look ahead, you guys are all involved in the tabletop game industry. As you look ahead to the future, what has you most excited about the future of tabletop? Think hard. Think hard. Bob seems ready.
I'm excited that it's becoming so much more acceptable in the broader community, that more and more people are coming to the board game industry, and just allowing me to introduce it to more friends and family. That it's becoming more accepted in I guess
Everyday life.
Yeah,
It's normal.
Basically, same answer. It's becoming more inclusive. People are being made aware that there's so much more out there that they actually will appeal to them, either like themes or mechanic, different levels of difficulty. Just like it's a whole huge world. Not just like what's being released now, but those who are just like new to the hobby. It's like there's this whole library that's already built up, like what's already been released.
Yeah.
That's what's really great. So
Yeah, wicked.
Anybody?
Growing up and becoming an adult, I have been through a lot of different experiences where I've gained friends, lost friends, been through things that have been tough. And this community and this industry has given me the opportunity to meet some amazing, wonderful, just beautiful people. And the more that we can share that with the world, the better. And it is so amazing to me that we're able to take this one hobby and use it for so much other pieces of good in life. And I know that might be a little intense for everybody, but it's been my experience, and I really think that it can be that experience for a lot of other people. It doesn't matter what your background is. You can find unity in this, and the more that we can share that with the world, the better.
All right, well, we'll do one more question from us, and then we will open it up to you guys. So think about any questions that you might have, and we'll finish it up here with, we have a lot of different perspectives on tabletop here and different kind of roles. And there's a lot of people out there that are looking to be where you guys are, to be the game designer or the artist or the graphic designer, playtester, all those kinds of things. So do you guys have any advice for people who are looking to get into this industry? Things that you went through or things that you learned in your own process that you could share with anybody who is what you were before you were here, right? Anybody? Isaac,
Sure.
I'll start with you. We can pass it down.
I've done a lot of stuff that I don't want to do. I worked in insurance. I did social work. I was a photographer. I worked at plenty of crappy restaurant, whatever jobs, worked in hotels and stuff like that. And what I've always wanted to do was something creative. And what I have learned from doing something like this is that it's not about necessarily your education. It's not necessarily about the amount of training. It's about how you decide to move forward and how you decide to take criticism, and if you decide to open yourself up to learning and learning that you don't know everything, that you need to be able to take feedback from other people. If you want to be a designer, you have to learn how to have a very thick skin, because a lot of people are going to tell you things about your baby that you're putting in front of them, and they're going to tell you, oh, that's ugly and that's terrible and that's and that doesn't work and it's fiddly, which is my most triggering word. So you have to have very thick skin, and you have to be willing to listen past maybe your own initial reaction of just like, oh, why are you saying that? You have to be willing to say, why are you saying that? What is the intent behind what are they trying to do? Because in the end, I think most of the people that you put your game in front of, all they're trying to do is help you. And if you're getting just a reaction that's just like, oh yeah, that was all right, you need to drive out those criticisms from those people, because you really need to figure out what you need to improve in your game, why you need to improve those things in your game. And in the end, if you see everyone around the table not asking you any questions, laughing, having a good time, or being really intently involved, then you kind of know you're getting there.
Yeah.
And from everything else, it's practice, persistence, and failing quickly, and that is something that will work for you in life, period. You know what I mean? Learning how to learn from those mistakes, move forward and improve, and being willing to listen to other people's criticisms and how to improve upon yourself. And that will come across in any sort of business that I believe you can do. So that's what I've taken away, and that's what I think you can utilize in order to become better.
Okay.
Fernanda, art?
Yeah, art.
Well, I think first than anything, you just need to put so much hard work into whatever you do, and do it because you love it, not for anyone else, not for people to tell you that it looks great or to get hired. Just start feeling just passionate about what you do, and just do and never stop. Just be so constant. Just paint and draw or create all the time. Just let it out there. Don't be scared of people judging it, because there are always going to be people who don't like what you do. Some other people will love it, and that's perfectly fine, but you love it, and that's going to translate into the work. I think that's so important. And put yourself out there. Show your work. Just don't be scared. You know what? It doesn't matter. Just love what you do. Create stuff because you love it and you feel interested on it. So people kind of get that, and they just kind of appreciate it. And also be responsible. I think that's so important. Meet deadlines. Always be kind to other artists, to people you work with. That's so important, I think. And put your heart on it. I think that's just the advice I have to you.
Thank you.
One more thing I want to add too, because I'm the art director at the company, so I'm constantly looking at artists. And here's something that stuck out a lot from Fernanda. She had something to say. Her art had a certain feel, a certain just aesthetic that was beautiful across the board, but still Fernanda. You know what I mean? If you're an aspiring artist, I feel like you have to be able to stick out and say, that's Fernanda's work. I know that's Fernanda's work because she does this. And a lot of artists out there, I feel like when I look at their portfolios and I look at what they put out there, they try to go in so many different directions, which shows me, because they're not practicing in one style or trying to move forward, it shows me that they don't really know what they're trying to say or do with their work. And a lot of times, none of it's very good. But the people that have a certain specific style, God, they just bring out so much beauty.
I think, you have to be true to yourself. I know it's scary sometimes, you're because I'm going to be judged. But just be true to yourself, and then you're going to find your own style. And eventually that's what's going to matter, because companies or clients, they're not going to want something that looks like everyone else is doing it. They want something that will stand up and be able to be recognizable. So, yeah.
Dave, what do you got?
I was gonna say, surround yourself with people you enjoy working with. Also,
Yes.
Because that energy that is created, even just among our team, it just continues to inspire and continues to drive. So, and basically everything that they said, as far as graphic design is concerned, there's a certain sense of artistry, but there's also a certain sense of technicality behind it. You have to know how to put together different types of packaging. You have to know how to work within certain types of limitations. You have to know, how to work with different types of files, and you have to know how to take someone else's file, break it apart so that you can create what you want to create based on the thing that you need to put it on. So there's just this whole aspect outside of I can make that look pretty. There's just certain limitations that you need to be able to work within. And then what they were saying about criticism, you need to learn how to separate the constructive criticism from people being critical or criticize you just for the sake of being critical, just so they can offer just that little nudge just to get you. Because I'm sure we've all been put in positions where you're told 1,000 just glory, it's oh, it's so wonderful, but then that one little thing that sticks out, it's just it's not that great. It's wait, what? Why? What? But tell me why. So that's the other thing. From it.
Okay. Bob, you got anything?
I guess make yourself available to help who needs help, and make sure that you're not forcing your help on somebody. Sometimes when people are under extreme deadlines, when people need to get something done, your pestering them about helping is actually hurting them. So make sure that they know that you're available if they need you. but don't force yourself into the project.
Wicked. All right. Well, thank you guys. We're going to open it up to anybody who has a question. If you just want to raise your hand and then tell me the question, and I will repeat it here on the mic.
All right. Well, as Bob Ross says, there are happy accidents during the creative process. Do you run into those happy accidents? Then something in a direction that suddenly makes everything else fall into place.
So Bob Ross, one of our favorites, talks about happy accidents, and you're wondering, does that happen in the process, and how do those kind of get spun into ashes if that has happened?
Do you know how many times one of you guys have come up to me and said, "Oh, that was brilliant," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." I didn't know that was brilliant. I just accidentally did it. And how many times people have lined up certain things and events that I've just like, "Oh, that just all randomly happens." But thanks, yeah, I do sound like a genius, don't I? No, it's just I'm really lucky. It's really no, but yeah, there's stuff all the time that comes up. There's been so many pieces of art where I haven't necessarily asked Fernanda to put this in or put that in, and she does her own little flares, and I'm like, oh, that just made an entire other chain of stories now. You know, there's just so much cool stuff that comes out of those accidents and sometimes miscommunications that is like, whoa, you know what, that works out great. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, for example, sometimes I will do a character and I will send it to Isaac and he will be like, okay, after a while, he was like, you know what, let's change it, let's redo it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I feel a little sad and everything. But then the new version, and people will love it. And they come to tell me, oh, this is my favorite. And I was like, wow, so I'm so glad that we redid it. And at the end, I'm just like so lucky to have that feedback and create stuff that people like.
Nice. All right, anybody else? You got something? Yeah, what do you got?
So when you want to come up with a new deck, you kind of just like lock yourself in a room, come up with 10 new cards, and send them off to Bob, or is it like a more of a collaborative process? Like, how does that all?
So what's the process essentially for coming up with a new deck? Is it a lock yourself in and just make it happen and then send it out, or is it a very collaborative experience?
Well, a lot of the things that, like Bob was saying earlier, I end up kind of sketching out in my notebook thinking, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and come up with a new deck, and I'm thinking about a new character and how I want them to match up, or what kind of magic are they going to be using, where are they from, I'm thinking about all these different things, and I try to make things that kind of match the theme and the story that I'm trying to tell. I don't necessarily design cards out of a specific mechanic that I'm trying to represent. So I do that pie in the sky, flighty kind of stuff that I'm just like, oh, she's gonna be awesome, and she's gonna have this giant sword, and she's gonna summon down meteors from the sky. And then Bob's gonna say, no, that will destroy everyone, Isaac. Which is what's happening right now. But yeah, right now, a lot of the stuff goes through me first, and then I present it to Bob. Bob has also done, different suggestions on certain decks, and sometimes I take those, and sometimes I kind of keep the process to myself just because right now it's so new and fresh, and I'm so excited about it. But as things move forward, there's no way in hell I can design everything, especially because part of my job is to make sure that the IPs that we have in place continue and do other things, as well as design new brands and move forward with other brands and collaborate with other designers to do art direction and collaborate on other designers' works just as the lead designer to help out and see where things are going. So time is of the very, very, very valuable resource, and I can't design everything moving forward, but the iconic stuff, the stuff that defines a new, a new magic type, a new, I want to kind of stick to being the guy that does most of the story and most of the characters because I'm really, really passionate about world building right now. But as things move forward, that's going to have to open up because that's just the nature of the game. There's going to be points where we're going to have to probably have 2 playtesting teams at times in order to test double the amount of stuff during the same time because the card pool is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and balance is going to be harder and harder and harder. So as we move forward, we adjust. Right now, I've done a lot of it myself, but Bob has definitely been a giant, giant help in making sure that these things are not going to ruin your lives.
I'll follow that up with a question about the card pool, the expansive card pool, expandable card game, right? So there's release after release after release over a long period of time. Do you guys have any plans to rein in what will eventually be a massive card pool? Or have you gotten that far actually thinking about that kind of a problem?
Well, I have planned out a few years ahead, and Bob has seen my plans and adjusted them. And my hope, and this is always subject to change, this is just me speaking from what I hope to get to. I hope to get to 60 Phoenixborns. Whether or not that gets to, some are going to be promos, obviously, some are going to be full decks, but I hope to get to 60 Phoenixborns. And then we'll start seeing other things. And that might change the game a little bit. It might reintroduce some other things, but we'll have to reapproach it then and kind of think about it then. What I was really opposed to in the beginning was doing something like what Game of Thrones just recently went through and doing a second edition. And I was like, oh man, I really don't want to do that. But I'm starting to understand a little bit more as to why they do those things. Mistakes get made. Things come through that you thought were fine in playtesting and aren't necessarily fine afterwards. And it's an opportunity to really polish everything again. There's no plans currently for that to happen. I want to continue moving forward and making the card pool bigger and having a really, really good, solid game throughout and testing that throughout. But it's something that as a company and as an individual, we will have to kind of take step by step because this is the first time we've ever done a game of this nature. Learning how to put together organized play, learning how to put together decks like this, learning how to put together characters, learning how to put together the balance are all things that are new to me as a designer, to us as a company, and we at Plaid Hat Games are open to learning and seeing what needs to be done, and we try to listen to our fans as much as possible and see how they feel about how we're moving forward and what they want from the product and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and try to make the best educated decisions that we can, and hopefully that means that Ashes continues to grow and do some really cool things and move forward in the future. And like I said, I would love to get to 60. That's just a cool number to me. But we'll see, and we'll just keep doing cool stuff and moving forward as long as it makes sense.
Is it all right if I add something to that?
Yeah.
I think it's also important to remember that Ashes has a slightly slower release schedule than say a Fantasy Flight LCG, and also that the releases aren't necessarily as large as a Fantasy Flight LCG. So the card pool won't become as unwieldy as quickly in Ashes as it would in say Fantasy Flight's LCGs.
Cool. Thank you. All right, who's up? Who's got one? Right.
So you said earlier you can't really design a character unless you come up with at least some backstory for him. So I have to ask, what happened to Noah? What? So antisocial. I mean, there's a snip of it in the fadeaway card, but what happened?
All right, so short question, what happened to Noah?
Noah's got troubles, I tell you what. I won't go 100% into full detail about his entire thing because there's a lot there, and we'll probably cover it in another Open Memories coming up soon. But Noah's a Phoenixborn that was thought to be deceased for a long period of time. The Great Cleansing took place, which they cleared out all the Chimera from the world and kind of opened up this new world. And Noah ended up destroying his city that he was supposed to be protecting, and kind of disappeared from existence. You'll notice in some of the card art that there's illusions and things in the backgrounds fading away and characters going away. So the Stormwind Snipers are actually these people that were from his city that he raised himself in this illusionary world. And they had families and kids and all these things, and they're all fake. So Noah comes back into the world when the prophecy kind of comes into play, and the pool of being the one and only Phoenixborn, it takes place. So he comes back into the world and it's like, okay, now it's my time to return. Because he's been living in his own fantasy land for a long period of time. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And Noah is not the only Phoenixborn in his family. And you'll see more of that later.
I'm just going to put this right here.
Who else? I've seen you for a while, yeah.
So the Chimera were supposedly all wiped out, but like in Jess's story on the website, there was one left. Are we going to see?
Yeah, one!
So the Chimera were apparently wiped out, but we at least know that there may be one remaining because of Jess's story. Your thoughts?
Discuss.
If I introduce anything in the story, you're sure to see it again.
You heard it here first. All right, over there.
You hinted at trying to get to 60 Phoenixborn. Is there types of dice limit that you've thought about at all of different things?
Do you have a favorite number of magic schools that you would like to introduce to the game, given 60 Phoenixborn?
Goal is 7 magic pool. 2 are going to be coming out next year. Those will be called Divine and Sympathy Magic, which will be very cool, and I'm very excited about those. And then, of course, we have to introduce Time Magic later. And those will be the 7 magic schools. And then more different types of dice might come out that do a little bit weird things.
Fair.
Bob, what are your thoughts on balancing time magic?
I'll pass on that.
You want to wait?
Other questions, right here.
My question's for Fernanda. I just want to know if you play board games yourself, and if you do you have a favorite one?
So Fernanda, do you play board games, or really did you exist in the board game world before you became kind of the board game artist?
Well, before I started working with these guys, I was not familiar at all with this world. So when they brought me in, I was like, wow, this is huge, and I would love to get more into it. I don't have a lot of time, free time, but
Believe me, she doesn't.
because I'm usually working for the games, but I would love to play more games and just get more into it because I think it's a lovely community. Everyone is so adorable. I love everyone, so I love it. But I definitely need to play more games because I haven't. So.
Fair enough. Don't we all?
Yeah.
Other questions? Yes, right here.
So right now it's looking like all the organized play is like one person versus another person. Is there any plans to do sort of team battles maybe, or a free-for-all kind of tournament? Or?
Plans for official organized play for non-1 versus 1 formats, team formats, free-for-alls, that kind of thing. Draft?
Well, draft is definitely a format that we tried out a new format today. Some people know about it, and if anybody wants to try that out, we can go ahead and certainly try it out here. But as far as doing more team kind of battles, Ashes was primarily designed and thought of as a 2-player head-to-head game. There are some other design things that I want to do in the future to help expand the 3-4-player format and possibly a co-op format. But those are things that will take time and a lot of testing, and I can't guarantee any of that until we see how those things go. Like I said, I'm flighty, and I like to make wonderful ideas and stuff like that. But then I listen to the people around me, and they reinforce me that I'm a crazy person. So we'll see. I hope so. I hope that can happen. But it also is very reliant on ensuring that the brand does well. So like I said, and I keep saying it, the more that you guys go out there and tell your friends and play with your friends and encourage the community growth and are nice and kind to everyone that plays with you, the more that will help. It will help us be able to explore those avenues, because if the brand is dead, if it's not making the company money, well then they certainly don't want Isaac working on it. So, and I will fight to keep it alive as long as possible. So, your help is desired.
All right, we got time for a couple more. Anybody got burning questions? Yes?
So, Bob, what was the craziest card that Isaac gave you that you saved us all from?
Bob, what was the craziest card that Isaac sent your way that you had to put the brakes on? Or saved us from, as was said?
I think a card that allowed you to take a conjuration from the opponent's conjuration pile and place it on your battlefield.
I'm sorry, Bob.
I'll take that.
4/2 magic.
That seems good.
That's an acceptable answer, yeah. That one good. All right, one more. Who's got it? Who's got the final one? Over right here in the corner.
So this one's for Fernanda about Rin. The first time I saw Rin, the first thing that popped into my head was, this is a spitting image of Magical Girl. And so I'm kind of wondering how intentional it was to kind of draw on this idea of the very happy character and posing in this very specific feminine way for this character.
So tell us about Rin. Seems to be a very kind of happy-go-lucky personality. Was that inspired by anything, or where'd you get that idea from?
Well, when I first got the concept from Isaac, he explained me a little bit of each of Phoenixborn's story and personality. So what I try to do is tell story through visuals and try to convey what he tells me that the character is. So he needed to be a really like happy and just kind of like playful, joking around guy, and I tried to put that into the art, and that was came out.
Yeah, where'd you get that idea from, Isaac?
Sorry.
You're good.
When I send Fernanda concept art on specific characters, especially in the early stages, I tried to give her as much reference and things as possible. So I would send her, different pictures of different models and things that I found online, different hairstyles, different clothing styles, different character poses and things like that. And when it came to Rin, I very much wanted him to be not necessarily this, ooh, I'm this tough, brooding guy. I wanted him to be more fun. Like, just kind of, he's like, magic, woo! It's like, because come on, wouldn't you be like that if you had magical powers? It's like, yeah, I'm a badass. I can do whatever I want. And he has a lot of fun with magic. And I thought that was a really interesting type of character to portray with someone who is the traditional kind of Norse-looking kind of guy. And I want, with every character that I try to design, I want to give you something that you haven't seen before. And Fernanda is really good at collaborating with me on creating those types of characters and doing more stuff. And the more that we've collaborated together, the more I trust her with understanding, hey, I just do something like this. It's like, and she just blows me away every time. So that's us from developing our relationship, from understanding how we work together, and now from being able to understand the world and the type of characters that we want to represent and do a good job making sure that we try to present a spectrum of people that people can connect to instead of just this type of character that you've seen in fantasy a lot. I wanted very much Ashes to be a fantasy world that takes you to that fantasy that you love and enjoy, but doesn't represent the world in the same way that you've seen before.
Wicked. All right, I saw one more question over here. Do you want to go for it? I felt bad about getting the guy right in front of you.
The story of the crows on all of Jess's art.
Oh my god!
Yeah, let's hear about the story of the crows on all of Jess's art.
So I finally broke down and told Christian. He's asked and asked and asked and asked, and he showed up again on the poster, he asked. And I finally broke down and told him, so I might as well tell you. So the crows, as you can see on the Blood Archers art, they've taken out their eyes, but yet they're really good at shooting arrows. It's a magical kind of thing where they actually now see through the crows. And Jessa can see through all of their eyes as well. So it's just kind of a cool little thing that I thought worked well, but honestly, that was another happy little accident. That happened for Fernanda just adding crows when we did the mats. And then Dave imposed the crows onto her art after the mats were created to kind of give more kind of this cool kind of visual on the Phoenixborn cards. And Jessa was actually the first one that he did that with and created the new aesthetic across the board with the Phoenixborns. So now he's created this problem for us that we constantly have to have something cool in the background. So, but it's actually really, really awesome, and I love it. And we, just with Victoria too, we had to put something else in there, and I said, just do this. And Fernanda did it, and when she did it, I was like, ooh, that's another cool story piece. So it comes out of, things like that just come out of working with awesome people, So hopefully you like the crow story, and if you don't, well, whatever.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Give them a round of applause. You guys feel free for the next couple hours, play some ashes, enjoy, meet each other. We will, of course, be open tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The tournament will start at 11 a.m. And we encourage everybody to play at that who wants to. It's super casual. There's a ton of participation prizes, so it's not just about who's going to win. And if you start losing real bad, then beer sales go up, so it's good for us as well. So enjoy yourselves, mill about, and we got more coming, so stay tuned, guys.
That was
That was fun.
so fun.